Ready? Okay. We had heard about Donovan when we had gone to the vet, but we were unable we were unable to find him.
Right.
Okay.
Through some woman.
Okay. Who said, "You've got to get this guy. He's the best guy in the world, etc., etc., etc." And just by luck, we found Donovan, which was a heaven sent. He is professional. He is able to control the dog in a dog that I've had dogs my whole entire life and never, ever, ever feared a dog until I got this one. And the only reason why I kept this one until I met Donovan was because of my children. Because what would have happened is if I would have gotten rid of the dog, the kids would have probably gotten rid of me.
That's probably true.
But this dog right now is a lovable dog. People on the block love to pet him. He's not aggressive. He is a very, very, very well-trained dog.
And I just want to say that before we hired Donovan, we had a trainer before that who was kind of a little stiff, and my son said not to hire him. But as Scott said, we couldn't find Donovan. And when Donovan came the first time, I have to say I was a little taken aback because he was really tough and gruff, and he was loud with the dog and really stood firm to the dog and lifted him up, and I'm like, oh my God. And my son Eric, who obviously is missing at the moment, said, oh, he's going to be perfect for Rocky. He's really, really good. And I was like, ah. And he's like, no, we're hiring him. He'll be really good. And Scott said, I really like him, and he's going to be great. And even after the first time that he came, there was a little difference with Rocky. And he can't leave. He has to come every week.
And if you see Rocky, he hasn't moved from the cage. He has actually sat there and obeyed the command of staying in the cage.
Hi, I'm Donovan from Canine Control, and this is the case of Rocky and Scott and Jeanette. Okay, Rocky is a 1.5-year-old male Rottweiler who had a previous trainer that didn't work out successfully with. Rocky had a long list of problems, but the most pressing of all the problems that Rocky had was that he was repeatedly biting or attempting to attack Scott. In the first month of the lessons that I would come each week when I came, Scott would have a fresh bandage. Isn't this true, Scott?
Here it is.
And it definitely seemed like it was an escalating situation that was getting out of control.
Without a doubt.
Did you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
There's also a young son who, in his early 20s, who's involved with the dog. He had a better relationship with the dog. It seemed like he had less problems with the dog. In the interim, during the period of time of training the dog with Scott, who was the primary focus, was because he had a bad relationship. Highlight some of the things that he was doing. You were telling me that he would rob your pockets and he would bite your shoes, and if you tried to tell him what to do, he would become aggressive.
The first thing was he scared the hell out of me because I couldn't trust him one bit. What would happen would be he would do anything to annoy me. He would go in my pocket looking for napkins or anything. He would take my shoes, the laces on my shoes. If I bent down to tell him no, he would go after my hands. He was totally out of control. He did what he wanted to do with me, and there was no way of controlling him.
Wasn't it true that there was a point that where even if you tried to bait him like with a piece of food to get him in the cage, that he attacked you?
Yes, he did. There was a time when he healed, and when I bent down to give him a piece of cheese, instead of going after the cheese, he went after my hand. There was a $100 bill on the kitchen table one day. He had the $100 bill in his mouth. I told him to drop the $100 bill. He did. When I went to get the $100 bill, I pulled back a handful of blood.
Okay, and this was an ongoing and escalating situation.
On a constant basis, I was afraid to the point where I didn't know whether to give him away, to kill him, or to bring him to North Shore Animal Hospital.
I'd like you to do something. As we're talking right now, I want you to tell Rocky to get in his cage.
Okay, Rocky, go in your cage, please. Sit.
Now tell him to lay down.
Down. Good boy. This would never, ever happen in a million years.
There was also a big problem with him just going in the cage. Am I wrong?
That's correct. He wouldn't listen at all.
Also, I remember a major problem when I first came in because he did attempt to attack me at the beginning of the training.
Without a doubt.
Okay, that I couldn't put a collar on the dog. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that when I approach him with a collar, that he would become aggressive?
Without a doubt.
If I put my face near him, he would become aggressive.
Right.
If I went to pet him around his face, he would become aggressive.
The two people that he was not that aggressive with was Jeanette and my younger son.
Well, God bless that, you know. And in the interim, you've had some other health. I knew you had some health concerns at the beginning, which really concerned me.
Correct.
Was that you were obviously showing some physical handicaps at that time. But in the interim, during the training, you actually broke your hip.
Correct.
So now, not only is the dog attacking you, your physical condition is worsening, compounding the situation.
And not being able to even run from the dog.
Yeah.
I couldn't even limp.
So you can't run or defend yourself against the dog.
Correct.
Okay. Call the dog to you from the crate now.
Rocky, come.
Come on, tell him to sit.
Sit. Good boy.
Do you have a piece of food there?
Yes, I do.
You feel comfortable now giving him the food?
Without a doubt.
Now?
Yep.
Jeanette, how do you feel about the process where Rocky was at in the beginning and where he's at now?
He has made 100% improvement. Absolutely. He listens. You can follow him. He'll follow you. He's more loving. He kisses you.
Yeah, that was another thing. He used to never lick you or make any of those kind of gestures.
Correct.
You.
No love.
And he does now.
Now, he actually, the other night, since the last time I saw you, he got into bed with me and he lied between Jeanette and I, and when in the middle of the night he was licking my face.
And that's completely new in the whole time that you
totally atypical. I mean, it's.
And he did go through another training program with another trainer previous to that.
A lot of trainers.
No, one trainer. He had one trainer.
He had trainers that took notes.
Oh.
That sat there and took notes and wanted to know things that I just didn't understand, like how old is he and this and that and the other thing, and why do you allow him to do this, and etc.
But generally speaking, at the end of those training programs,
it was ineffective. It was no.
Right.
You had no real practical result.
No.
You still had the issue.
Yeah, I still have the same problems that I had to begin with.
Okay, tell him again to get in the cage. Tell him again.
Rocky, go in the cage, please. Sit. Down. Good boy. Good boy.
Okay, and you find that this is fairly consistent
without a doubt.
on his
He
part?
could be doing the best things that he wants to do, but if you tell him to do that, he stops whatever he's doing and he's totally obedient.
Well, what I would like to do now is I would like to test the two things that were really bad with him, which is removing the collar, placing it back on him, and taking away a tube sock, which is his favorite object. Yeah. Rocky, heel. Sit. Sit. Down. Sit. Good boy. Sit. I remove his collars from him. down, sit. I put the collar back on him. I touch his face, which used to be impossible.
He would not allow you to do that before.
Or his paws. You couldn't touch his paws.
Right.
No, he's giving you.
Actually,
Down.
he wants to give you his paws now.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to give him his object. Down. Good boy, Rocky. Down.
That could have never, ever, ever been done before you got here. My hand would be a piece of chopped meat.
Mine too.
Right.
He wasn't particularly fond of me
No,
either.
he wasn't, but he was less fond of me. Yes.
Okay. You see that these commands here are very clear at this point. Sit! Good boy. Down. Rocky, in the cage. Good boy. Okay, guys. Just tell me this. Very simply, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you guys say about the results that you got from us?
15.
Honestly.
Not
Honestly.
You guys are very, very happy.
Yeah.
15? And I said 1 to 10.
And that's why I said 15.
Are you that surprised?
I am
by the result?
not only surprised, but I am totally satisfied.
Yeah. He's in awe.
You've also owned other dogs
Yes, I've
previous
had
to
a
this,
shepherd.
like large,
Yes.
aggressive breeds.
Right.
And you've had trainers in the past,
Yes,
am I right?
I
So
have.
you have a history with having dogs professionally
For sure.
trained.
For sure.
And you even at one point made the comment to me that you wish that you thought back of some of the problems that those dogs had
Correct.
with running away,
You're right.
and that the other trainers were unable to solve.
Precisely.
And I think you saw what I did with this dog, and you realized that I would have been able to.
You take
Yes.
the dog outside without a leash, and he totally obeys commands outside without a leash.
And I
The other
did
dogs
do
that
it.
I've had, if you opened up the door, they were gone.
Yeah.
And you have to chase them with a car.
To call the dog back to you.
Rocky? Rocky. Come. Come. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Good boy.
You guys are getting to be good pals now,
Down.
right?
Oh, they are.
Down.
I have to tell you. Good
Good
sleeping
boy.
buddies they are.
Good boy.
So I did overhear you talking that, listen, every dog owner has a soft spot for their dog, and it's tough to face the reality when you have an escalating and dangerous dog. And I'd like to point this out also. I'd like to point this out too. Just take this moment to point this out. Both of you guys work in the psychological
Social work,
fields, right? The social work, and so you deal with behavior as part of
Without a doubt.
of your professions. You're both educated in the fields of behavior, and you deal with behavioralists. And so did you feel like the explanations and the examples that I gave you made sense to you?
Not only did they make sense, they were like textbook. It came straight out of the textbook. I mean, exactly the behavior that you might use on a human being that is aggressive or angry.
Well,
So I mean, dog.
You were able to put it into context. You were able to explain why he acted that way, how to solve acting that way, and what we would do, what we could do to cause it, what we could do to stop it, and why.
and I'm glad. So you feel like you have a lot more insight into the dog at this point?
Without a doubt.
And I'm not ready 100% to quit on you guys yet.
No,
I
you're
want
not.
you to know, and I want you to, and listen, I also want you guys to know that I guarantee the training for the rest of the dog's lifetime. So even at the point that I wean myself off of you guys, periodically from time to time we're going to check up on you. If you feel like the dog is slipping a little bit, showing any signs of the old behaviors, we'll come back, we'll do a little bit of refresher. So you're part of the family now.
Gotcha.
Okay, you're part of the canine control
We feel that way.
family now.
Right.
We invest a lot, both not just from a dog training perspective, but from a personal perspective. Our program at Canine Control is modeled sort of after family counseling style of training.